How's it going, man?
It's going good. I've been doing this thing where I have bands I'm calling it the Buzz In session because you guys buzz in via phone. Very cheesy.
I like it.
Well, thanks, man. You know me, I like catchy, cheesy nicknames. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, snappy.
How's your time in quarantine been?
It's been, up and down, trying to stay grateful. Definitely trying at times, just psychologically.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It's the staying inside constantly and just the little things that we take for granted, the things you just can't do anything. You can't go anywhere, and it's a strange vibe. And I feel like a lot of people in the beginning were really stoked and like making TikTok dance videos, and now you're even starting to see those people kind of start to lose it a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like just the uncertainty, too, of like not knowing how long this is going to go on for. And I have 2 daughters, 6 and 3, and I have them with me Monday through Thursday. So I'm doing like the homeschooling thing with the 6-year-old and just trying to keep them occupied for, the day. And it's, so I mean, that part is like, I mean, it's hard and gratifying and joyful and hard again and all of that stuff. But it's like, it's kind of like I'm sort of in the trenches doing like single parenting for 4 days out of the week. And then I kind of do nothing but nap for the other, and sort of like other days of the week and kind of recharge and kind of get ready to do it again. But we've been doing a fair amount. Eve 6 has of like, we've had some like, corporate Zoom gigs.
Oh, wow.
Which has been really welcome just because we, obviously we had a tour just get canceled and, no one-offs or anything like that, which is a big part of our income, obviously. So we're doing as much of that stuff as possible. And I'm doing some fitness stuff here and there, but with quarantine, that's been less. And then I'm doing this totally bizarre, I don't even know what you'd call it, project.
It's almost like when Garth Brooks did Chris Gaines. That is what your new project is.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. Actually, that's a good reference point.
You should say it's like Chris Gaines, but not as edgy as Chris Gaines was. More for families.
Yeah, totally.
So how is a Zoom show, like for a corporate Zoom call? I never heard anything like that. I mean, how's that go? Is it pretty awkward? Or?
I mean, it's like me and Sweet Pete, our Eve 6 guitar player, were talking about it. And like, it's kind of awesome being able to do, we're just doing it acoustically, but do shows like that from home. It's really easy and people seem to get a kick out of it. It's been pretty cool. I guess we did one for a podcast, and then we've done, I think, like 3 for like paid kind of corporate things. And we have another one, actually a benefit on Tuesday where we're doing a similar thing.
That's awesome, man. It's a cool way to keep it going, and just to be able to do stuff I think is so important right now, especially like even things like this, because I can't have bands live in the studio probably until like July at this point. So it's nice to do things like this and just to keep the content coming in on the show versus me just playing the same old songs. You know, what's funny, Max, I had a great time when you and Kenny came on the show, and Ben and the guys from Congo. So that was such a fun night. And one thing I didn't get to tell you that. Now, one thing about Eve 6 that I've always thought is pretty ironic is as someone who's been in touring bands and stuff, I always say when someone brings up something I did that was foolish or could get me in trouble in the present, I always say, oh, I was just a kid. And in all fairness, I didn't really tour like, in a band on a bus and stuff till I was probably like 26. But in the case of Eve 6, you guys legitimately were kids whenever your first record came out and you got signed. I mean, you were fresh out of high school, so I guess that is a legitimate excuse for you guys.
Yeah, it really is, which is kind of fortunate,
Yeah, absolutely.
We signed the deal in high school or junior year of high school, and then made the record a few months after graduating.
Were you just walking the halls like, I have a major label deal, guys, check it out?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I think, I was definitely like pretty arrogant about it, in not so much like just going around and like bragging as much as like, oh, I really don't need school anymore. I don't have to go. It's all but done. It's written now. Like, we're going to be just fine, which was like a really foolish thing to think. But we did end up having a pretty good run and are able to still, make a living touring and doing all that stuff. And it, allows us time to do other stuff as well. So it all worked out in the end.
Oh, absolutely, man. And then the first record came out, was it 1998 whenever the self-titled record came out?
Yep.
And I know, like, right off the bat, Inside Out goes, it went to number 1, didn't it? Like alternative charts.
It did, yeah. A few times, actually. It was weird. Like, it hit number 1 and then would get knocked off by, like, the Bare Naked Ladies, and then it would go back up. That happened, like, 3 times.
That's amazing.
It was wild.
And whenever you came to town last year, I saw you play at the City Winery. You did the Songs and Stories thing, which was awesome. And I definitely want to get into some of that. But I think it was that night Art said from Everclear that he had the chance to produce the self-titled Eve 6 record and chose not to. Is that true?
Yeah, he came to a few rehearsals and was like kind of started doing pre-production with us. And it was like happening. And then our A&R guy, who was mixing, what was the second Everclear record?
So Much for the Afterglow.
Yeah.
Great record.
He was mixing So Much for the Afterglow, and Art fired him.
Oh, wow.
That. And then we didn't know this at the time, but he was basically, all right, F this guy. And yeah, all of a sudden, Art wasn't in the picture anymore. It was like kind of awkward for a few years after that. Like we'd see him on festivals and stuff, and I think both of us assumed there was like some weird bad blood or something, but there wasn't ever. It was just circumstances and some kind of funny, typical, Spinal Tap stuff. But we're really good friends now and have been for a long time, and have done a bunch of tours together, including that one.
Talking to Max Collins from Eve 6 and Fitness on the local Buzz for the Buzz In Series 2020. It's like 1998, the song goes to number one. What's like the first moment? Because I feel like most bands that I talk to at least always have like a moment where they feel like, okay, this is really happening to me. This is what I would consider a rock and roll tale. Do you have a moment that sticks out around that time that you thought, okay, we've made it?
It's funny. I remember having this thought, whenever that moment was where it was like, oh, wow, this song is like really on the radio kind of constantly. I remember just thinking, wait, is this real? Like, that seems too good to be true. Like, this kind of thing doesn't happen to me. Like,
yeah,
I remember having, it all sort of seemed really, really surreal. I remember just having that thought driving. We were still in a van at that point, and it's like, kind of couldn't turn on the radio without hearing that silly little song. And I don't know, there were probably a few of those. It did happen, I guess, quickly by any objective metric, but when we were in it, it didn't, the song had like a really slow climb up the chart. There were times that we thought it was kind of done, and it would like drop a bunch. It would drop like 4 or 5 positions, and then we slowly start to inch back up again. And like, the story of a band, most bands are grinding on the road and, figuring out who they are and getting better for years before they get to the place that we got to, kind of by happy accident. But it still, to us and at our young ages, seemed like it took time.
No, I feel that way. I feel like a lot of people think that things are overnight success, but even if you're like, 15 working at it, you're still working at it for all those years. A lot of people, assume things are overnight, and it's like, no, man, this has been going on for like 6 years, regardless of the age. And then the second record, Horoscope, which, by the way, happy 20 on that one, man, came out in the summer of 2000. Yeah. Great record. Thanks. I have a memory. I worked at a movie theater when Promise was like on the radio, and I remember being at the movie theater and hating my job. And my coworker said to me, "Dude, we should just quit our jobs like that in that Eve 6 video. Have you seen it?" And it's so funny because I do remember that video. As all the kids were like quitting their jobs, and you guys are like rocking out in the middle of it. That is a very cool video.
So funny.
Yeah, we didn't quit though. We stuck it out because we couldn't go play in a rock band.
What were you doing at the theater? Were you like taking tickets?
Well, I was concession, and then I moved up to booth usher, which was actually a pretty cool job at the time because you just run movies and eat candy all day. When you're 17, you can do that and not gain a pound. It was great.
Totally.
And then it's funny too because on that record also you had a huge hit, Here's to the Night. And I've always wanted to ask you this. I meant to ask you when you came live in the studio, and I totally it slipped my mind that night. But Here's to the Night comes out, and that was the year that I graduated, so that was like the graduation song. And I recall being at graduation, they played that tune, and thinking to myself as a young guy in bands, thinking, I don't think this is about graduation. It almost sounds like he's singing about like groupies or something. It sounded like to me. So how was that, having one of the top graduation songs? There's like a list online of the top graduation songs of all time. It's some big website, and that's like number 5. How does that feel?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of glad it worked out that way because it did give the song, I don't know, it has this kind of recurrent life every summer. But I don't know. I think it was definitely helped by the music video and the narrative of that, which was definitely, it was kind of serving up that nostalgia. And yeah, it definitely was the furthest thing from my mind writing the song. But yeah, I think it's kind of cool that it worked out to be this weird prom theme.
Like a teen memory that people come to hear now because if they think it's the graduation song. So you just tell them, yeah, it's the graduation song. Put your cap and gown on. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly, man.
We're talking Max Collins here from Eve 6 on the local Buzz. So the next record comes out, It's All in Your Head, which I thought was a great record. I know that one didn't sell as well as the other two. But I thought that was a great record, man. Think Twice and some of those tunes on there were great. Were you guys bummed to see the reaction to that wasn't as big as the first two?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. We were kind of, at that point, that was record number 3, tour number 3, not a lot of time in between. And I think we were all kind of, the wheels were coming off in more ways than one. And then it was also, Clive Davis came in at RCA, and basically our whole team that had been there on records 1 and 2 were all of a sudden gone. And we didn't have like the allies that we'd had at the label anymore, you know, kind of predictable story. I mean, the record still, like by today's standards, would have been, it sold 250,000 copies and had, you know, a top 10 song in Think Twice. But yeah. It didn't, and we'd also spent a stupid amount of money on it. Like,
oh, really?
We made some really poor decisions, like having multiple A-list mixers do it, and like literally like scrapping Tom Lord Algae mixes, and just really, really dumb stuff. So I think, it just came down to like the numbers. Like we spent more than we were making for the record company, and we got dropped after that record.
I have a couple friends that were in bands around the same time that were dropped from their labels, and the one thing about that was interesting at that time, like today's standards, like my band Cabo, when we got dropped from Warner Brothers, we had our Twitter handle with the verified thing, we had our Instagram, we had our 100,000 Facebook fans, and you could somehow still exist in a sense where you could still reach your fans. But getting dropped in like 2003, 2004, it's kind of like the lights just went out. Like, how was that?
It's true. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I guess we had some of the access, but definitely not nearly what you have today. I think it was sort of kind of gave permission to me to kind of call it for a bit. And I think I'd been wanting to do that for a minute anyway. So it was kind of like, all right, we're getting the signals here. Like, let's take a break. And that's what we did for a few years, and then kind of slowly started to put it back together a little bit.
And you guys played your last, I've always heard this is true. Maybe it's because I'm from St. Louis, so it's a rumor. But was the last show of that era of Eve 6 in St. Louis, Missouri, under the arch for like an outdoor show?
Yeah, it was.
I've always heard that, so it is true. Okay.
Yeah, I remember that show really well, actually. It was like beautiful day, great crowd.
Did you know it was the last show at the time, or was it a decision afterwards?
I'm trying to remember. And now I have some doubt creeping into, like, I feel like maybe there may have been another show or two after that. I don't fully remember, but I know that was, if it wasn't the last, it was one of the last of that era.
We're talking to Max Collins of Eve 6 and Fitness on the Local Buzz. One thing I wanted to ask you about, whenever you came last May to do the Songs and Stories tour, it was like Art from Everclear, Chris from Fountains of Wayne, John from Marcy Playground. And one thing that stuck with me with that is when you came on the show with Fitness last year, you had said that Fountains of Wayne was one of your favorite bands. And I look at it in the sense of when I was 22, I was in a band that got signed to Robin of the Gin Blossoms label. That's how I met them. And I was a massive Gin Blossoms fan growing up. I still am. I think they're one of the greatest bands of all time. And we went out and toured with them and like opening up for them for like 30 shows. And he would ride in the van with us. And I remember just thinking, this is my favorite band. And they're like, we're on the road together. So when you're on the road with Chris from Fountains of Wayne for that tour, I mean, I'm assuming you've probably met in the past, but how was that? Because, I mean, loving that band so much and getting to play with him every night, I bet that was pretty surreal.
It was amazing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they've been, I mean, they're literally my favorite band. And people who only know them for Stacy's mom are always kind of baffled by that. But if you dig into their catalog, I mean, they're incredible. And so, I mean, I'd known the guitar player for a while. He and I were close for a bit when I was staying in New York for a time. And then Brian, the drummer, played with me when I was doing like a solo thing. But I hadn't been, and I'd met Chris here and there, but we really became close on that tour, and it was awesome. And so sad and strange about Adam. That just still doesn't feel real.
It really doesn't, man. I remember you and I had talked a lot whenever I came to your show. We talked about Hackensack, the song, and just what a genius that guy was, man. Like the That Thing You Do soundtrack and all the things he did, like such a talented guy. And I think you're right. People that only know Stacy's mom, that's just because they knew the hit. But the people that really dig into Fountains of Wayne, like you and I do, I mean, songs like Hackensack are much more deep cuts, and it's just really a shame to see Adam go like that.
Yeah. Chris had a great interview in Rolling Stone like last week that's just really honest and moving that kind of goes into their story and touches on that song a little bit.
Nice.
That I'd recommend people check out.
Oh, absolutely. And you guys actually, Eve 6 you guys were doing a 20th anniversary tour for Horoscope that was booked, and then you guys had to cancel it. Are you thinking maybe you're going to reschedule maybe a 21st anniversary tour?
Yeah, well, at first we were trying to rebook for July, which felt ambitious to us, but our agency thought that they might be able to swing it, and it, definitely proved too ambitious. We're looking at, I think, the fall now.
Okay.
But it's tough to say. I mean, there's definitely a lot of noises being made that there won't be any shows for a really long time. I don't know.
I saw today they canceled, I think it was Louder Than Life in October got canceled, and they keep going pretty, at least as far as that level of a festival, I imagine it probably makes sense to keep it until, it's 100% sure, because that is a risk. I mean, to get something like Bonnaroo together in a time like this, I mean, there's got to be also, I was talking about this last week, the first festival to come back, regardless of how things are looking, the very first big festival is going to get some backlash. They are. It's just going to happen. So I'm anxious to see how that goes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we were sort of wondering about that too when this first started to go down. Like, maybe we'll evade this because we're not playing, we're not doing arenas. We're doing club shows.
Yeah.
And we'll see, man.
So Max, obviously you have Eve 6 and then you have Fitness. I wanted to say to you something really funny about whenever you guys were up here. I took that picture together with you guys in Congos and I posted it on my Instagram page, and there was a lot of comments. A lot of people were stoked, and there was one comment in particular that I thought was really funny, but also is totally debunked by how amazing the new Eve 6, the Fly record, the live record is. One of the comments on my page was, love Max, but he only does Eve 6 for cash. His heart is in Fitness now. And I thought that was pretty funny, and obviously Fitness is your new band. But when I listened to the Fly record, the live record you guys just released last week, I mean, you guys sound like it's 1998, man. You guys, and not just because we're friends, I mean, it really sounds solid. You guys sound energetic and stoked. I feel like the heart is there for both bands. Am I wrong? It totally feels like it.
No, you're not wrong at all. And I mean, I think it's hard for people, for fans, and I understand why too, when they kind of love you for something and then you do something different. And yeah, I think that can be, and I get it. I really do.
Yeah.
But it's going out and playing Eve 6 shows, especially now, we've really kind of just refined it. We're, for a while there, we were bringing out some extra sort of bells and whistles and running some tracks on some songs, and kind of got captured by that moment a little bit. And it's that's not what we are.
Yeah.
And we've really kind of brought it back to just the, guitar, bass, drums. We have a new drummer, relatively new, and Ben Hilsinger, who also plays in Fitness, who's just so good.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, it's a blast, And a few months ago, started recording some new music. I actually don't think that's even been said publicly yet, but
nice.
We're going to be putting out an EP at some point. We were going to put it out after the tour, but now the tour is not happening, so we're kind of reassessing when to drop that, but it might be sooner than later. And it's just a straight up kind of punk record. It's like kind of the record we've always wanted to make and probably would have made without other kind of cooks in the kitchen and major labels and stuff like that. And that might be polarizing too to some old fans, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it's really raw and not super produced, but we're really into it. And at this stage of the game, it's kind of we're going to do what we feel like doing, and we know the live kind of business is there and it works, and we like playing those songs, and we're going to do new songs. We're going to kind of do whatever we feel like doing.
And I'm stoked to hear you guys are doing new stuff too. That's going to be awesome. Ben on the drums, man. He's a beast for sure. He definitely fits well in the band. And Tony was great too, but I mean, obviously Ben has his own different style.
Totally. No, Tony was a great drummer too, for sure.
It's funny you say that about, the fans, because when I did the Cabo thing for all those years, then whenever I started a band called Repeat Repeat for a while, we were out touring and I would tweet about the shows, and Cabo fans would show up, which is a heavier band, and these kids would show up in the front row wearing Cabo shirts, just looking completely disgusted because the two bands were so different. They couldn't have been more different. So I guess the good thing is at least Fitness has you, and as well as Eve 6 does, so it's at least the same voice, I think, is always helpful for that situation.
It's funny, it is, but it also kind of isn't. It's weird. It's not like I'm consciously affecting something, but I do think my voice sounds different, at least to me, in Fitness than it did certainly when I was between the ages of 18 and 23 doing Eve 6. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's similarities, but I think it's also a little different.
I saw you live when you played at the Exit Inn last year, and you guys don't play any Eve 6 songs, and I thought that was cool. You just step out and do your stuff, and I love that about it, because so many bands will throw in one or two, and it's no, they're just going to play the straight up up fitness stuff, and I think that's cool.
Yeah. It's a totally different endeavor, different sounds, different dynamics and stuff. And it's Kenny Carkeet is my partner in that. And he's just a really talented producer and writer, and he and I definitely just have a chemistry.
And you could definitely feel it, man. You can definitely feel it. Talking to Max Collins of Fitness and Eve 6 on the local buzz, and like you're saying about time has passed by. It's weird to think how long it's been since Horoscope came out, and just the whole being here in 2020 in the future. And I had a dream last night that I wanted to share with you. It's really stupid, but it's just the idea of getting older, I guess. I had a dream last night. I'm a huge fan. I think we talked about this whenever you came in the studio last October. I'm a huge fan of Matthew Good Band. It's a Canadian band, and huge fan of him. And I had a dream last night that Matthew Good picked me up from the airport. We were going to go hang out, and I was like so pumped to hang out with him. And he looked like he did like in the 90s, so it clearly was a throwback dream. But all we did in this dream, I swear to God, was drive around in his car and talk about the best kind of blood pressure medicine. Now, I don't know what kind of adult dream that is, but I guess my rock and roll dreams are officially over now. I just dream about blood pressure medicine with Matthew Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, you're sort of merging two worlds, the practical and, the rock and roll, spirit, like kind of came together in your subconscious.
I guess that's a good way of looking at it. It's kind of a beautiful thing if you think about it.
It really is.
Well, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to hang tonight, man. And obviously, I'm really digging Opera Cadaver. It's a great EP. I think the song Anvil is my favorite one. I've been spinning that one on the show quite a bit. It's probably the slowest one on there. I'm a sucker for slow tunes, but I love that song, man. I don't know. I read some stuff online, but that seems like a pretty personal song to you. That's a great song, man.
Thank you. I think that's probably my favorite from the EP, too.
Oh, nice.
And thanks for playing it, man. That's awesome. You've been such a supporter of fitness, and it means so much to us.
Absolutely, man. I get so excited whenever new music comes out, because you know how you feel as you start to get to a certain age. You feel like there's nothing good that's new, and you just go back to the same old stuff that you always played. And so when you guys back in the day sent me, I think it was Matter of Time was the first one, and I was like, man, this is just so good. So it always gets me excited to play it, and I definitely love playing you guys' stuff. And I appreciate you, man, taking the time to call in tonight, because like I said, it sucks not being able to have guests in the studio. So I thought I'll see if Max wants to come on. That'd be fun. So I'm glad that you chose to do it, man. So thank you so much. And go check out right now. It's called The Fly Record, the live Eve 6 album, and Opera Cadavers, the brand new fitness EP. And when that tour gets rescheduled, let me know, and I'll definitely I'll quit my job just like in the Promise video and come on down to the show.
For sure. That sounds good, man. Thanks so much, Andy. I appreciate it.